The greatest investor of all time just hung up his cleats.
The time has arrived where Greg should become the chief executive officer of the company at year end.
Berkshire Hathaway is sitting on $350 billion worth of cash. And rumor has it that Greg Abel and Warren Buffett have been seen partying with Michael Saylor on his yacht. And if that's not enough, it's also been rumored that Michael Saylor has been invited to play at Warren Buffett's famous bridge games, to which he was uninvited because all they wanted to talk about was Coca-Cola, value investments, and all he wanted to talk about was Bitcoin. All jokes aside, in my estimation, over 1 million people have tuned into their Q1 earnings call. Michael Saylor is the Warren Buffett of the future, and MicroStrategy is the new Berkshire Hathaway. Strategy is the most held and most traded Bitcoin proxy with over 55 million beneficiaries. You may not agree, but Strategy is up over 3,000% since adopting a Bitcoin strategy. Today, I want to look at how Michael Saylor, like Warren Buffett, is influencing the next generation's greatest companies and investors. I actually believe that I might have found the next Michael Saylor, and I had a conversation with him, and I think it'll blow your mind. This is Dante Cook of Bitcoin Simply. Let's go. Like Greg Popovich, stepping down after winning 5 NBA championships, 3 Coach of the Year awards, coaching 6 Hall of Famers, and going against over 170 different coaches during his 30-year tenure. One of the greatest investors of all time just stepped down, in Warren Buffett. Warren announced that he had no intentions of selling any shares of Berkshire. And after that, he got a 2-minute standing ovation.
It just won't.
I'll spare you the whole thing, but honestly, there's a lot of people clapping because Berkshire Hathaway has outperformed the S&P 500 by over 5.5 million % since 1964. The compounded annual growth rate is at 20% versus 10% for the S&P 500. In the process, he created an entire generation of investors and companies that followed his philosophies and strategy. And we're seeing the same thing play out right now in Bitcoin. Michael Saylor and MicroStrategy's Bitcoin Treasury playbook is being adopted by some of the greatest minds, thinkers, investors, and companies all across the world. Not a joke. A company called Thumbs Up Media says that they're going to raise $200 million to do the MicroStrategy playbook. And Bitcoin has just gone to the Ivy League, as Brown announced that they're buying $4.9 million worth of Bitcoin. Michael Saylor has even influenced a company like Fold and its CEO, Will Reeves, who just rung the bell on the New York Stock Exchange on Friday, saying that he's building the new American dream with his company, Fold.
Today's ringing of the bell doesn't just celebrate how far we've come, but it signals what's next. A bright orange future where Bitcoin powers a new American dream, and one that's open, accessible, and in reach of everyone. Thank you all to everyone who has come today and all of our customers. It's time to build.
Michael Saylor's impact is nothing short of extraordinary. And I've been reaching out to different companies and company leaders who are adopting the Bitcoin Treasury strategy. And in the process, I came across somebody who's absolutely brilliant. He's building his company around the intersection of energy, AI, robotics, and Bitcoin. And he's the CEO of KULR Technologies, who started their Bitcoin Treasury strategy in December of last year when they purchased $21 million worth of Bitcoin. I had a conversation with their CEO, Michael Mo, who was not only influenced by Michael Saylor, but I believe is as brilliant as a company builder and engineer.
So that Michael Saylor Q3 2024 earnings call was a game changer for me. And then I start watching every Michael Saylor video I can get on YouTube, and I came to the concept. He talked about, I forgot which interview he was in, the concept of digital capital and the concept of digital energy. And the concept of digital energy it just resonated with me perfectly, because the general idea is you take energy and you convert that into digital capital, and then the store, transport, and across space and time. Bitcoin is the lowest cost of capital when you take all these things into consideration.
Since that Q3 2024 call, he's become more and more bullish on Bitcoin. Listen to some of his future predictions and why he says it's time to buckle up.
I think, I think it's been a wonderful journey for me personally, and I think for the company to be part of the Bitcoin and crypto community. I went to Michael Saylor's New Year's Eve party to celebrate the 100K end of last year. It was fantastic. Spent a couple of hours with him, got a lot of guidance, mentorship from him. He's been, very, very generous with his time and his guidance. And then met a lot of people. And then I realized that the, crypto community is very, in the Bitcoin community specifically, is very, it's very kumbaya. Everybody wants to work with each other and help each other. So that's great. And it's a journey, and then, Kathy Wood said that, in 5 years, her expectation is Bitcoin hit $1.5 million. I think the baseline is something like 600 up to 3 million. Michael Saylor says that, it's a $2 trillion asset class right now. It get to a $20 trillion asset class. Tom Lee from Fundstrap said that, historically, any asset class that has crossed 2 trillion, dollars in market cap has never disappeared. So we're at the point of no return for this digital currency now. So it's just going to be an incredible journey. I mean, it's just, the volatility, people ask me about volatility will, my personal view is volatility will be reduced because now you have institutional holdings, right? BlackRock, all these Fidelity, all these biggest of the big financial institutions starting offering that as an asset class. You've got sovereign nation funds, wealth funds, holding them as a strategic reserve. You got states, Texas, Wyoming, all these places, Florida, all looking at Utah, all looking at this as a store of value for their strategic reserve for the states in different countries, Germany, Switzerland, the whole bit. So, this is happening. This is happening. And I think with the recent volatility in the financial market, especially with US dollars and the treasury market, I won't be surprised that this adoption accelerates across the board. So we're just getting, it feels like we're just, 20 years into it. I think we're just getting started. Once they cross 100K again, it's just going to accelerate.
This is just the beginning. Some of the things that we talk about in the second half of this conversation will absolutely blow your mind. But first, let's thank our sponsors. One of the things that Michael Saylor says is never sell your Bitcoin. And before Ledn came to market in 2018, there weren't a lot of ways to do that. But since then, Ledn has developed the world's leading solution to allow you to unlock liquidity in your Bitcoin without selling your Bitcoin. The process is fast, simple, transparent, and very smooth, which is why they have over 1,000 five-star customer reviews. You can get money in your account in less than 24 hours. If you want a $5,000 loan, you post $10,000 worth of Bitcoin collateral. Loans start at just 12.4%. And if you go to learn.ledn.io/simply and start the loan process, well, you get 0.25% off of your first loan. Don't work with any company as you unlock liquidity in your Bitcoin. Work with the leader. One of the things that Michael Saylor also says is never lose your Bitcoin. Protect your Bitcoin at all costs. Well, one of the best ways you can do that is by simply removing your Bitcoin from third-party exchanges. But a lot of people aren't confident on how to do that and need help. One of the best ways you can do that is by working with the team at the Bitcoin Way. They'll provide you with a member from their team who will walk you through step-by-step self-custody, privately, safely, and securely. Schedule a free 30-minute consultation with their team at thebitcoinway.com/simplybitcoin. Before we go further into the conversation with Michael Mo, I want you to understand the caliber of person that we're speaking with and the types of products that their company develops.
And I started KULR about 10, 12 years ago with my partner, Dr. Tim Knowles, that has been developing thermal management solutions for aerospace and defense applications with carbon fiber. So we started 2013. And, throughout that journey, we start developing more on the the battery safety product, and eventually evolve into energy management platform around batteries and battery safeties. It's with a lot of work that we did with NASA for NASA Johnson Space Center and so forth. So now our products are on the Mars rover Perseverance to keep the batteries safe and the electronics cool. We're on the International Space Station, and frankly, we're on have probably a couple hundred different defense and aerospace programs over the years.
Before we get back into the conversation about Bitcoin, I want to talk about some of the types of other applications that they're developing that'll blow your mind. Here's one for data centers and Bitcoin mining companies.
This was a high power heat sink product that we acquired. We tried to incorporate that technology into our portfolio. But when you look at the what is data center cooling or the Bitcoin farm cooling, I would say maybe 95% of it still using air cooling. There's a trend going towards liquid cooling, but air cooling is still the dominant force because the existing infrastructure, the machines, and just the cost base, air cooling it's just a lot less expensive to do that. So with air cooling, it's fans. So another one technology that we have developed and we're pushing out with customers is it's something called the KULR Vibe or KULR Zero Vibe, which is eliminating vibration in rotating device. It came about from helicopters. So we bought the technology that was removing vibrations for military helicopters. And then we realized maybe there's an application for that for server fans. And we've been proven that we can remove server fans, the vibration by up to 90 some percent. And so now we're working with partners how to reduce the cost of that balance and then and then mass produce it into data center applications. Another one that in addition to that, we starting to when we talk to customers, they start telling us that the acoustic signature, the acoustic energy, sound is actually a bigger problem, whether it's EPA, human comfort level, and actually sometimes the sound crashes hard drives and creates issues for the server environment. So we're developing a acoustic attenuation or elimination technology together with the vibration elimination technology to have a total solution for removing both vibration and acoustic energy, and to be a more efficient and quieter data center. So so stay tuned for that.
What about doing compute on NVIDIA chips in outer space?
Part of the development, actually this was this week we announced that we received a grant from the Texas Space Commission for $6 million to work with NASA Johnson Space Center in a company called South 8 to develop very, very low temperature space qualified batteries. So it's like below 60 degrees Celsius. And so this is just part of the equation to be an enabling block, like the picks and shuffle part of the business, to enable what you're just talking about, the deeper space, the outer space exploration. There's a lot of technical details that you need to get into to enable that from happening, which is one of which is low temperature electronics and low temperature battery. So that's something we're working on. On top of that, what does it mean to actually put a data center like AI data center powered by with the latest NVIDIA chip out into space? So you're not communicating all the data back to your server, but you're actually processing all that language models and all that stuff real time in space. Fascinating question. I don't know the answer to that, but let's try to find out.
Now we're into the meat of the conversation where we're talking about his thesis on Bitcoin and why volatility is vitality, a phrase that he learned from Michael Saylor.
I think it transforms us from a fundamental kind of a culture perspective and in more of a philosophical perspective. In addition to the balance sheet, obviously, it can create a lot of wealth for the shareholders, and it you know I get asked the question quite a bit. How do you stomach the volatility in Bitcoin? I would borrow Michael Saylor's favorite saying, volatility is vitality. Um, and this is you need to survive and thrive in volatility as a company, as a small company like KULR. I mean, we have less than 100 people. Our market cap's only $300+ million, and we're still a very small company in the whole scheme of things. But you need to have the mindset to be able to survive in volatility. And this is very important because, I think that in the age of AI, things are happening so crazy fast. Every industry, every company, unfortunately, is going to have its own DeepSeek moment, which means that you're going to wake up one day and then see some of the assumptions that you made, some of the business foundation that you built upon get DeepSeeked, get disrupted without your own fault, right? Things just happen so fast. Just this year, we've seen a few of these DeepSeek moments, like the Black Swan moment. DeepSeek is one of them for AI. Even the biggest of the big companies had huge volatility in their stock. Then most recently, it's the tariff, right? Tariff affects everybody, from large company to small company in every industry. And these are external market environments where it creates a sense of urgency, a sense of volatility and uncertainty that I think that every company needs to know how to deal with. So coming back to this, I think that Bitcoin is, people call it volatile, but I think that when you look at the volatility of Bitcoin over the last 3 weeks compared to even US Treasury, compared to the stock market, compared to other things, I don't have the data in front of me, but I will say that it's probably a lot less volatile than all the other financial assets. And it's highly liquid, and it's 24/7, and it's decentralized. When you think about the future of work, future of products, future of money, decentralization, distributed, a decentralized and distributed energy source, which is battery, decentralized and distributed AI, which is a physical AI at the edge, which is robotics and AI agents and so forth, decentralized and distributed money, which is Bitcoin, and decentralized distributed ledger, which is blockchain to keep track of your inventory and the chain of custody and stuff like that. We're implementing that for our battery business. All these things are symbol of resilience, right? Decentralized, distributed, that's resilience. And you got to build a resilient infrastructure for your company. And I think all this stuff put together is a good training ground for KULR, and I recommend other companies as a training ground to build resilience for your organization.
One of the greatest analogies that really stuck out to Michael from Michael Saylor is his analogies on digital energy and digital batteries, on how Bitcoin is the best solution to store energy across time and space.
The digital energy analogy that he gives in these interviews, and digital capital, that's really it, right? That it's a store of energy that you've taken from electrical energy, which you generate electrical energy through whether it's a solar, wind, diesel, fossil fuel, so forth. It's a digital form of physical energy that became electric energy that mine the Bitcoin, which has become digital energy, and you store it in the form of actually just in your thumb drive, and the cost of that storage and the transport of that storage is so low, it becomes the best store of value. So if you talk about, across space and time. So if you want to transport $1 billion worth of gold from New York to Tokyo, I think his knowledge is that you need to rent a private jet, guys with big guns, transport over there that costs, $250,000. And so it's 25 basis point of the cost of $1 billion. I wouldn't be surprised if he actually went out there and priced that service out. He probably did. But anyway, so that's 25 basis point to transport $1 billion worth of gold physically from New York to Tokyo. Then how much does it cost for you to store it for 10 years? Then you get a vault and army guards around it and just try to protect it and so forth. So every year there's a cost associated with it. Now, if I think he gave a great analogy about if you buy bonds or S&P 500, how much inflation and other value, other factors has eaten into it. So you're actually losing money every year. But Bitcoin is the best store of value, and in this case, store of energy that you've spent 10 years ago to create this value, and how that energy gets stored in across space and time into the future. That's probably the best analogy I can give you at this moment for Bitcoin and batteries.
Okay, going back to the beginning of our conversation and how MicroStrategy is the new Berkshire and how Michael Saylor is the new Warren Buffett. When you look at Berkshire Hathaway's share price, you understand that the share price is so high because they've never inflated their shares. They've only decreased the number of shares, and as Warren Buffett said earlier in the show, he's never selling his shares. There's a cult-like following with growing and exponential demand on a fixed supply asset. He's buying stakes in undervalued assets and never selling them. And this is why I think Michael Saylor will become the Warren Buffett of our generation. In 20 years, will we look back at Michael Saylor as the greatest investor of all time? I'm excited to see. Tell me what you think in the comments. Before we get out of here, I want to make sure that you all get the hookup that we're providing to all the listeners on this show for people that want to go to the largest Bitcoin conference in the world in Las Vegas from May 27th through May 29th at the Venetian Hotel. That's the Bitcoin conference in Las Vegas. 20 to 30,000 other people will be there. Use the promo code SIMPLY at the Bitcoin conference checkout in order to get 10% off. That's the promo code SIMPLY for 10% off your tickets. If you get value from these episodes, please do like and share these videos like this one today, and please do subscribe to the channel. This is Dante Cook with Bitcoin Simply. Happy stacking.